right, welcome back to another episode of Out on the Road podcast. I'm your host, Ty Linker. Today's episode is brought to you by Slickman Welding Apparel, as always. Nate Montez, good friend of mine, got the best gloves on the market. I wear the 820s. I see a lot of 716s. He sent me a set of drivers when I was in Florida. Love them. Pump diesel in them. Do any kind of other little chores around. I tend to wear my drivers and not wear a pair of long welding gloves. Um, that's at slickmanweldingapparel.com. Find them on TikTok, Instagram, Google, Safari, wherever you can search people up. Also brought to you by Wobros, wobros.us. American Steel and Sex Appeal. Chris, a great guy. Had him on the podcast. Released that in a couple of weeks here. He's got the blue and white, or well, let's say he's got the OGFRs. He's trying to get to where he has 10 patterns available at all times. So be on the lookout. I know he just dropped the Paisley. There's another one. I don't know what it's called. But steadily dropping cool stuff. Remember, he's got the steel-toed Hey Dude, or the inserts for your Hey Dudes. I wear them every day in my high top leather. Nobody ever says anything to me. Also brought to you by T&M Welding Supply, Taos and Mary down in Big Spring, Texas. Don't have a website. You can search them online. Taos and Mary, they'll get you anything shipped out to you. They carry 99.9% of things built for the pipeline, built for your day in and day out welding. They got roll-out wheels, umbrellas. They carry pipeline clouds. They got welding caps, tape measures, levels, plenty of flange wizard stuff. Jacks, he's got a deal on jacks. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know if you buy 4 or 6, you get a little break here and there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Today I am joined by Austin Ross.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And we had this scheduled for last Monday, but the truck incident kind of put this on the back burner. But you're a busy man, so I had to make sure that we could set it back up at a good time where you had some free time to have a conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. I've been looking forward to it. I know it took me a while to get back to you, but I am looking forward to it. I want to start doing more collabs, so I think it's cool what you're doing, and I'm just glad to be here.
My helper, he's been asking me every day. Oh, yeah, when's Austin Ross' podcast? Because he's watched the shit ton of your YouTube videos, and I did back years ago. I remember seeing some YouTube videos that you done when you were still welding every day back then. And then you done the one about, I think he was building a fence. No, you was in your camper explaining different welding hoods. That's what it was. That was last
Yeah.
year for a long time. And then a buddy of mine was like, this was last year when I first spoke to you. Was it this year? I think it was the end of last year when we first spoke. And I was like, man, that name sounds so familiar. And I went back to search and watched a few videos. And I was like, man, if I can get him on there. But then when I messaged you, and I was like, he'll never respond to it. He'll never respond. And then you did. So here we are.
How did you reach out? It was this text, wasn't it, or did you email me? I don't even remember.
I messaged you on Instagram, I'm pretty sure. And then,
Oh, okay. Oh, and then it transferred you to the community text. Yeah. Okay.
and then we moved on to a private text.
Yeah.
Drop all sorts of information and just trying to get you committed to it. I see you was born in Stillwater, Oklahoma. My dad went to college there. That's pretty cool.
No, that's cool. Where are you from, Ty?
I am from North Alabama, but I was born in Poto, Oklahoma, back
No kidding.
a long time ago.
So, do you know anybody from Poto,
I don't know.
or you didn't spend much time there as a?
I was raised outside of McAllister, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Years of my life around Tallahena, Buffalo Valley, that area, and then we moved to Alabama when I was 7. So I just always tell people I'm from Alabama. It's way easier.
Gotcha.
Detail. But my birth certificate says Poto, Oklahoma. And so I got a lot of family around there and stuff.
Right. Well, that's cool. That's cool. I was just telling Ty before we started that I'm a question asker, and I don't I don't know him real well, so I'm gonna have to keep my mouth shut.
No, it's okay, dude.
But
I probably should do a podcast where I go back and kind of refresh 'Cause the first one I did wasn't very good. It's probably got like 2,800 listens to it. I'm sure people got bored pretty quick because we didn't really. I was doing with my buddy Dalton, and we kind of didn't know what questions to ask or really how to get a conversation going. So it's kind of a struggle bus podcast. But
Yeah, but the fact that you're doing it, dude, is all that matters in my opinion, because there's a huge gap between the tradesmen and like social media and those of us that have worked our whole lives, and like, so the fact that like we attempt stuff like this is a big deal, and it's good for our industry. So the fact that you're doing it, much respect.
appreciate that. It's
Much
just
respect. Oh
I'm
yeah.
looking to track people's stories. And like TikTok's one persona per se, or YouTube. You're on there explaining something, but that don't mean that people genuinely get to know you. Or yeah, I think it's a lot easier to get a connection with people if you're in a sit down situation like this where somebody's asking you personal questions or commenting on your life. I mean, you wrote me a very detailed bio about your life. And it's I don't know. I feel like people can connect with that a lot more. And they don't feel like
I
listening to a guy preach on the internet, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. It's a whole nother type of information and conversation. I agree.
And I'm trying to transfer over to the video part of this. I've always done the just strictly uh, audio part of it, but like I told you, I'm trying to branch into YouTube. Now I got these little snippets you can post like this Riverside. These people here, it sucked when I first started trying to use this thing. I couldn't understand it at all. Well, then I reached out to him because it cost me like $300 for this platform to do it the way that I thought I wanted to do it. Well, I
Yeah.
messaged them. It's like, I want a refund because I don't understand how to do y'all's crap. They sent me these videos, broke down videos of it, like I was relearning how to weld or something again. But it's working out so far. It's if you got decent internet service, and you can also record locally. Like a couple weeks ago, I was at Bo Jackson's house and I was trying to record on my iPad and had my phone set up where it was videotaping us, and the shit didn't work out. So I got a camera coming out for when I'm doing stuff like that. But I can hook the camera to my iPad or to my MacBook here and record locally. So it's I don't know, it's a learning curve, and then having to want to do it, but I got a little
Yeah.
fired up about, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. It's the same thing I tell my helpers all the time when they're practicing and it's hot outside and they worked all day and they don't want to practice when they come home. Well, if you're not doing it, somebody else is practicing and they'll get that job and not you. So it don't matter. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But if you don't do it, know that there's repercussions for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The spot will get filled no matter what. That's just how the universe works, in my opinion.
And
It's kind of a law.
I kind of already got this market cornered, as far as the podcast thing for pipelines. I mean, there's another podcast called Iron Sights, and Nate was on there a couple weeks ago, and they're not a pipeline oriented podcast. They are a welder as a whole podcast. Like, and they put out some really good information over there. Me and him talked a little bit back and forth. I really like them guys. It's like there's plenty of market for everybody. You just got to find the right people and the right information to put out there. Like, I only wanted to do guys that had this huge following, right? Like, I wanted these guys that had 100,000 followers here or there, blah blah blah. But I've learned that I'm not always going to get that guy or that gal. Like, I need normal, everyday, average people because that's what this thing was started on, and that's what I want to continue to do. Like, I want that information as well because I want everybody's story, not just the guys that have made, like done well on YouTube or have done well on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. I want to encapsulate a lot of people's stories, and I kind of got sidetracked with it a little bit, but I'm bringing it back full circle now because I just released Mac Buzzards today. Mackenzie Buzzard, she's from Oklahoma. She's a welder. I released hers today. I got Bo Jackson's coming this week. I'll probably drop two
I'm
this week because I didn't drop one last week.
I'm so glad you got Bo Jackson on here.
I mean, it's a good conversation.
I worked with Bo. I love Bo.
Yeah, he's a chill dude, man. Nothing excites him. Just then I'd take
Well,
like I had like 2 podcasts scheduled out there. I was going to start with Bo and do Austin the Priest. Well, he once me and Bo finish up on the podcast, man, he wants to take me and show me the cactus, and he wants to show me this. I mean, you can spend all day over there with Bo just because he's such an easy dude. He's chill as all get out.
What's Bo doing right now? I gotta ask. I ain't heard from him in a while. Is he still pipelining, or is he doing something else?
No, he's still pipelining, but Bo's one of them guys that works when he wants to work, and when he wants to do stuff at home, he's doing stuff at home. He was actually extremely hard to get on the podcast because that guy wakes up, I don't know, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and he doesn't stop till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Like,
wow.
It's hard to get him to sit still and sit down for 2 hours, hour and a half to have a conversation with him. Like, I literally went to his house, and that's how I got him on the podcast. Because we tried to do him on the phone, and the times didn't work out, this and that. But,
yeah. I'm looking forward. I'm gonna make sure and check in with your podcast, see when his goes up.
Since I didn't and another thing about Bo is I don't even have to edit it. Really. It wasn't even the editing thing. Because I promised I was going to drop Bo's next, but I promised I'd put a post up like 3 weeks ago talking about this one's for the ladies or whatever. Then I got side. Then I was just recording, and I didn't have time to edit it. And then I wrecked my truck. I got hit in my truck, and that messed me up. But here we are. Mackenzie's come out today. Bo's. I'm going to try to drop later this week. I'm not going to make a promise. It's probably it could be next Monday. It could come tonight. I don't know.
Right.
There are a lot of people that's ready for that one. There are a lot of people that's asked me. He was like recommended. Like I was like, who would you like to hear on the podcast on Facebook? And it was Bo Jackson.
You dang right. He's a character. I like him. I like the shit out of Bo.
In West Texas, where I'm at, he's a living legend. Like
oh yeah.
And some of us have been fortunate, or some people have been fortunate to be on a job with him. Some people haven't. They just know him from town. He was a long-time resident there in Monaghan, so a lot of people know him. He is something else. You ought to see the picture. I can't wait to put the picture on Instagram that he sent me for the podcast. I allow people to send me whatever picture you want to send me. That's the picture I'm going to use to promote the podcast. He sent me 2 very good pictures that I can't wait to share.
That's awesome, dude. I love it.
That guy does not he cares a great deal about work and stuff. But he just a go with the flow, just a genuine good person that he thinks what he puts into the world. If he puts all this good into the world's going to be great. That's the way Bo Jackson thinks, and it's a beautiful thing. He's a great dude, great man.
It really is a beautiful thing. I agree with you.
And I'm happy he let me stop by and see his little ranch and stuff and hang out with him for a little bit. And I'm glad he let me record it because I was a little bit nervous that he wasn't going to be like that. He'd feel like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I changed my mind. I don't want to do it. But he didn't. He hung it in there for 2 hours. And I kind of let him just carry the conversation himself, where he wanted to go to and stuff. I always start him out the same way, like, where are you from? You're from Stillwater. I kind of always do that, but then kind of let the conversation just go where it goes to, Sometimes it gets you in trouble. I have a real few guys about that.
Right. It can have a nice touch, though, if it's natural conversation, kind of like you and I right now. It can have a...
like it to be,
yeah.
Not so much. I tried the scripted thing, but I was like, man, I'm not a robot, dude. It's not the same. And I've tried to clean up a lot of my cussing, because I don't know if you know Gerald W. Brewster.
Not personally, but I know who you're talking about, yeah.
Sis, can you hear that lightning?
I heard something hit, but I didn't...
That was lightning.
I can't hear it.
Thunder.
Oh.
Lightning, it was thunder. Jeez.
Oh.
It don't rain in the desert, but it might tonight. That was hard.
Wow.
Anyways, but Gerald W. Brewster, he was at Western Welding Academy.
Yeah.
And he had a pretty good following of people that like to watch his content and stuff there. And then they parted ways for whatever reason. But when I was in Colorado last year, I was like, man, I'm going to try to get him on the podcast. I'm going to see if I can get him on there. So I messaged him. He gets back to me pretty quick. And he's like, can we have a phone conversation? I was like, yes, sir. So he sends me his phone number. I get off work, I call him, and I talk to him and stuff. And he's like, He said, "Son, I really believe in what you're doing, and I like it a lot, but I can't be part in all that cussing that you're doing." I said, "Man, I'll clean it up. I can clean it up." He's like, "Well," he's like, "if you can promise me that, I'll be more than happy to do one with you." Well, I had him booked for like two Thursdays ago, but he had some health problems. I think he's posted about it now, so I could probably talk about it. He had a heart attack. Like, he almost died in the ER and stuff like that. So he's kind of getting healed up again, and then me and him's gonna have our conversation. I can't wait because that man has been everywhere and done everything. My service get bad, I lose you. I lose you. I lose you. If you heard the part about Gerald W, but he
No,
he had his heart attack and stuff, but he's coming back on the podcast. I hope later next week we'll be able to set something up. I was kind of letting him heal up a little bit before we jump back into it.
he had a heart attack.
Yeah, he like
Dang.
his widowmaker was clogged up, and he went to the hospital, and uh, I guess they was waiting. They was waiting on them to get him in or whatever, and he pretty much fell out right there on the floor and like to died. But they got him in surgery, and he called me Memorial Memorial Day Monday, and they had got him doctored up and stuff. So I'm just waiting on him to get back to 100% where he feels like doing it, and then I'm gonna get him on there.
Yeah, awesome.
So are you a first generation pipeliner?
I am a first generation. Yeah, my brother's 2 years older than me. Rodney Ross with Mid State Welding. He lives in South Dakota now, but he was the first one in our family to become a welder, become a pipeline welder than myself. But yeah, we're first generation. Yeah.
Uh, is there a certain reason you decided to chase welding as a career?
Me personally was because of my brother. He like I said, he's 2 years older than me, and he went to our local trade school there in Stillwater, Meridian Technology Center, his junior and senior year of high school for welding. And I didn't know. Let's see, if he was a junior, I'd have been ninth grade. So I guess prior to ninth grade, prior to him going to that, I didn't. I knew I was going to work. I knew I wasn't much of a student. So I was like, I got to find something to do that. I knew I wanted to be successful. And whenever he kind of rattled off that welders were making back then, it was like $40 an hour. I was like, I got to do that. And sure, I went. I decided to go to Votech, and I enjoyed it and put my all into it, and that's all I've ever done since. So that's what inspired me, though. I guess is my brother.
It's cool when people have like a relative. To me, it's always cool. Like I don't know any of my my dad says that I have some relatives or welders, but I don't know them. I've never had any kind of relationship with them. So, but like I always think it's cool when somebody has somebody in their family that was a rig welder. It's kind of a family thing. Whether it's a sibling, a dad, or an uncle, or, even a
Sure,
mom.
sure.
I always find it interesting. Like Austin DePriest, she's a fourth generation pipeliner.
Oh wow,
Mike Buzzard, she's a third generation. I always think it's cool.
that is cool. That is cool.
The it says here you ran a MIG gun. Also got some. I guess this when you was working at the welding supply or the steel supply.
Yeah, yeah. That's mostly all we ran was MIG. We ran a little bit of TIG there. I TIGged some aluminum quite a bit, and stick a little bit, but mostly MIG is what we did there. Yeah.
The and I am just terrible at a MIG gun. I don't know why. I think it's because it does so much for you. I can't
Hmm.
ever get the travel and stuff down right on it, or set it up right. I guess I just never had the initiative to do that. But I do find
Yeah.
TIG welding. I do find it extremely interesting. I'm just not very good at that either.
Me neither. And like I said, I don't have near. Whenever I was in welding school, I gravitated towards stick welding. That's what I wanted to do was stick weld, and it was just that steel supply job was just an entry level job, but I wasn't doing what I wanted to do and what I focused on in welding school. I didn't. It was good for me for the experience, which is what I stress a lot. On the YouTube channel, like it taught me a lot of fabrication skills. And I definitely got some. Obviously, I got real familiar with the MIG gun, but I knew the whole time I worked there, I knew that I wanted to work out of my truck and stick weld. that was what I enjoyed most.
The since you said that about getting experience and stuff, like I feel like kids struggle a lot with that. You know, they see the big fancy trucks and they see this and see that. You know, instead of maybe so much not the like where you're from and where I'm from, they have the trade school or VOTEC schools. You know that you can take your morning classes and you spend a couple hours welding. You know, some of them might just have ag shop where they do it. But you know, like any experience is not a bad experience. You know what I'm, does that make sense? I feel like
I agree. Yeah, yeah.
you know whether if you're just going in there to learn how to run a cutting torch, well, you're that much further along. You know these like my helper right now, for instance, he went to college and got a business degree, but he also took some sort of welding class there at Texas Tech, which made him that much better. He runs a cutting torch better than me, and I've done it my whole life. But he runs it better than me. It's a natural at running a cutting torch. But
Hmm.
I don't feel like any experience you can gain coming up. You know, like you ain't got to jump out at 18 years old and have a big flashy truck and a weld machine and all that stuff. Like that's one of the things I've tried to push a lot. Is you know everything's a stepping stone to get to where you want to be at.
110, 110. It's one of the biggest issues, in my opinion, with social media. I actually filmed a video today, a couple different videos, but over all the years of having the YouTube channel, one thing that I've dissected and kind of noticed and observed uh, is how this generation coming up with social media, they see what, we'll just use my, me pipelining, for example. A lot of people found my YouTube channel because of the pipeline work, and they see that and they want to do that. They see the nice truck, they see that you're out there pipelining, and they want to do that. And so they instantly want it, and they kind of forget the backstory, that there's a lot of years behind, me being right here on the right of way right now. You know what I mean? So I couldn't agree more. We could talk the whole podcast on this issue because it's a big problem nowadays. Unfortunately, you know what I mean. Social media, it's because it discourages kids. You know what I mean? Like
For
not
sure.
only does it discourage them, but it also like gives them false hope. You know what I mean? They kind of forget that in between, and they kind of forget that there's tangible steps you can take to get there, but you got to be willing to, you know, slow down, focus on your own. You know what I mean? Keep your blinders on, do what you need to do right now. You know what I mean? Don't worry about what everybody else has got going on. Like you have to be willing to do that, and that's hard to do whenever you're constantly
See,
scrolling and seeing stuff. It's a big problem.
and it's hard to
Totally.
tell an 18-year-old kid to be patient. Not everybody learns and grows at the same rate. You know, I could take two kids, both 18 years old, and this one right here may be 2 weeks in front of this one in the first week. What this one is, you know, don't mean that this one's better and this one's worse. It don't mean anything. Just people learn and retain information at different rates of speed. You know, it's not doesn't mean this one's dumb and this one's smarter. It's just how we operate as people. You
I
know,
agree.
everybody learns at their own pace. So, you your first pipeline test you went to there, I know you worked in the steel yard and you done some drilling rig stuff, but the first pipe test that you take, what was that job for?
So my first pipeline test was for a fabrication job for One Oak in Medford, Oklahoma, and the call came out of nowhere. I was working for the drilling rig yard, and the guy that called me, his name is Michael Sayre. He was 3 years older than me. I think he was in my brother's Votech class. He's from Pawnee, a small town outside of Stillwater. And him and his brother, real good welders, been welding since they were like, I don't know, like literally 4 years old or something. You know what I mean? They've been welding their whole lives. Their dad's a welder. And anyway, but they went to Votech also. And I didn't really talk to Michael very much. I didn't have like a great relationship with him, but I asked him later. I said, "Why did you call me to come take that test?" Like I mean, I had a welding truck and I was working on drilling rigs, but I didn't have no, pipe welding experience, per se. And so later I asked him, I said, "Why did you call me to take that test?" He said, "Because every time I went into Stillwater Steel, where I was working right after high school, I would talk to Joe, the owner, and he would just talk you up and say, you're always good hand, always on time, always willing to do whatever. And so what that told me is that somebody was watching. You know what I mean? How people always say like somebody's always watching. And so I need to ask. I would love to ask Michael more questions, but I need to. It just always amazed me. I was like so humbled that he called me. I was like, why? Like I'm not a, you know what I mean? I don't know why, but Michael's always been that way. He's always helped uh, younger guys that he can tell that they want it. You know what I mean? He can tell that they're serious about rig welding and wanting to get into the pipeline industry and so he called me out of the blue when I was working on that rig yard and he asked if I wanted to come take a test. Medford's 2 hours north of Stillwater, where I'm from, and I said, "Dude, I'd love to." I said, I'm nervous. I can't remember the conversation, but I know I was nervous. But I was like, absolutely, only 2 hours away. And so uh, I told that guy I was working for, the the welder foreman on the drilling rig place, Charlie. What's his last name, from Louisiana? Real great guy. Also gave me a chance. I mean, I was very persistent on getting that drilling rig job too because I didn't know anybody. Like my brother was pipelining. I didn't have any connections per se to that drilling rig deal. And I so anyway, I always remember Charlie. What is his Arno is his last name, and really appreciate the chance he gave me. But anyway, uh, I told him my situation. I said, dude, I got a test up here. I said, I've always wanted a pipeline, whatever, and he's like, go take your test, and if you bust it, just come on back. You know what I mean? And so one of them cool deals that an older guy, you know what I mean, done for me, and I was like, all right. So I went up there and tested like the next day or something, I think, and again, nervous wreck. It was a 12-inch butt, I think, flat and a branch, and I don't remember how it went, but I asked Michael years later. I said, dude, I must have been a nervous wreck. He said, oh yeah, you were. He said, I knew the inspector on that job. He said, I knew that he was gonna, you know what I mean, be fair with you and everything. He said it was a good job for you to, you know, take your first pipe test and start getting some pipe welding experience, and it sure enough was. It was a good job for me.
I always try to stress to my helpers that it's not me that's going to keep them busy as their career progresses. I'm only one guy. I don't know everybody. But if you're doing me a good job, then the other welders, like we're at Fabin and there's 6 or 7 other welding trucks around there, they're watching helpers. Everybody watches everybody, And that's what's kept me busy is my helper days. Not so much anymore because it's been so long ago. But when I first was breaking out, that's what kept me busy a lot was people knowing my work ethic and how much knowledge I wanted to gain. Um, I would always be asking questions, and some of them probably weren't the right questions. But luckily, the welder I worked for just blew those off and refocused me on what I was supposed to be learning. And I've always stressed that. I mean, it's not who you're working for that's going to help you out. It's the other people around that can see you work. That's what's going to progress your career as you go through this. The I feel like my helpers do a good job. I complain just because I complain, but I seldomly want from anything from them. They show up to time, or they show up on time. They do their job. They rarely complain about it being hot or cold or wherever we're at in the world. I've been fortunate the last couple of years to have really good hands. That's cool though. That's cool that you and that guy still, the Michael guy that got you your first gig and stuff. That y'all still interact, know each other well. That's I tested not long ago in starts with a C up there, Cushing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't know what that test place there is called. Is it American API?
API. Yeah, API. Yeah.
Yeah, them guys are super cool up there. That was a good test. Easy. I won't say an easy test because no welding test is a give me, but it wasn't there to rip you apart on things.
Right, right. Fair,
Know.
fair. What I would call them, fair. They're not there to, knock you out of a job. They're just,
Yeah.
they can tell you got experience. They're not going to ride you too hard. You know what I mean? I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Do your job, and they wasn't out there trying to do nothing too crazy. They was real fair people, real fair guys, good guys. And then this last test that I take, or take, take, took him, took last test that I took, they they come out of Cushing can't remember that guy's name, but he come down there and tested us in the yard in Eastland. But he was from Cushing. He wasn't there when I tested, but he knows the guy. Well, they all know each other. But he was there like a half a day when I first got up there to test. We tested for like 3 or 4 days, something like that. They take a bunch of tests.
For Enbridge?
Or Enbridge, Holly. Well, at the time it was Magellan, but now it's 1-0. Tested like 4 days and got like 5 or 6 different company papers.
Oh wow, that's awesome. A lot of times whenever I hear people having to test for several days in Cushing, a lot of times it's Enbridge.
Northern Natural, they got 5 days.
Yeah.
3 days worth of testing, 5 or 6 tests. It was for a company out of Tulsa called Mid America. You ever heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of Mid America. Yeah,
they're a good company. Do a lot of maintenance stuff is their priorities. You know that. I don't think they do much fabbing or anything like that. But they do a lot of in-service maintenance side of things, rehab work, especially around the area. My buddy still works for my buddy Dalton. He's still working for him. But I just wanted to try to stay home this year in Texas if I could, as much as possible. So it's kind of been my goal. Haven't done it in a while. But I already went to Florida this year, so who knows? Next month I know I get to go back to Minnesota. I don't know yet. We'll see.
It's a good goal, but yeah, that I sure. Whenever I was pipelining, I had the what do we call it? The fever bad, man. I didn't want to stay. I wanted to go see places I had never seen. That's all I wanted to do whenever I was pipelining.
The rambling fever.
Yeah, I had that bad. It took me 2 or 3 years of not pipelining to get off that rambling fever. It's fun, man.
Yeah, it's a high. It's an addiction in a type of way. You know, not the same as. I mean, I know a lot of guys that's kind of ruined a lot of good things they had going on in their life because they wanted to go see Wyoming one day and Mississippi one day. You know, but.
Oh yeah, no, it for sure can. Yeah, because you got to have that self discipline to say know when to say no. For you know what I mean. You got with pipeline, you never really know what's best, but you know, you're considering your family situation. You're considering, you know, the job length, all that stuff. All that goes into play. And if you make the wrong decision, you can shoot yourself in the foot. Sometimes more out of your control, and sometimes not. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by. You just never really know with pipeline work, but you can take an educated guess the longer you do it. You know what I mean?
If you have a job lasting for another month, a month and a half, and this other job, they're telling you you're on that job, and once you've done this for a while, you can kind of tell how much pipe's left around. You know, no matter what they're saying, you kind of can start putting the job together in your mind. You know, how many times are left, stuff like that. You know, but this other guy calls you and he's like, "Man, I got 3 months worth of work over here. Good fab job, man. We got 2,000 welds. You know, well, 2,000 welds split between 10 welders ain't that much welding to do. You know?
Right.
Take that 3 months and you split it down to a month and a half. Well, you're on a month and a half left in the spread that you're on, and you ain't taking a chance on driving 800 miles and blowing a transmission or an engine or, you know, cutting down some tires on your truck and the camper or, you know, anything. You know, and then you're out that money on top of, you know, the money you was going to make sitting still. You know, and I've been guilty of it. I mean, I think we've all been guilty of it. You know, somebody calls you someplace you ain't never been. The money's the same, but you don't care about that. You just never been, so you got to go see about it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Pass your test, you get a hotel or whatever, and it's a 2-week job. And here you are, $1,000. And I'm not even gonna make my money back now.
Yeah.
We've all been guilty of it, but I try to refrain from doing that anymore. But like, and with all the stuff going on this year, I was like, man, I don't really want to be that far away from home. You know, I did go to Florida, but I knew it was a short job. It was going to be a quick turnaround. And they had a job in Texas, and it was all going to work out, which did work out for a little while. But once again, nothing's guaranteed in this line of work. It's there 1 minute, the next minute it's gone. It's just part of it.
One thing I found valuable was who I was working for. Once I kind of got the trend, it finally clicked that, you know, Even though I liked going places that I've never been, I finally, the business mind took over, and the trying to control, you know what I mean, trying to control what you can, in that hectic lifestyle. And one thing that I came to terms with was like, you know what, I'm going to start going on jobs for guys that I like to work for, because at the end of the day, that's what makes, you know, a good job, in my opinion, is who you're working for. You know what I mean? I don't care the company, I don't care where it's at. If it's a good guy to work for, I'm there.
That's why I'm in the desert right now, because the guy that I'm working for, time and time again, he's proved his word's good. He's good. He's not. He's a great boss to work for. He takes care of you as much as he can. It's just, I don't.
Yeah.
I think that the next job that he has is not outside of Texas. It seems like it could be outside of Texas, but it also could be in Texas. So I'm just like, like welders normally get that itchy feeling like, oh, we're getting laid off. We're getting laid off. Well, any other boss that I've worked for tells me, you know, that we got this, or we might have 2 weeks left. I'll probably already drag up, or at least have something pretty much solidified, another weld test.
Sure.
We'll let this one play out. He says that they got work, and I'm just going to ride the ship till we're done with it. We'll see. I mean, like, we know that my truck's got to go to the shop, so I need to spend a couple weeks down anyways. The guy told me you can have it in and out in 3 weeks, but he said it also depends on parts, and we all know how that goes. I'd love to have I miss that truck already. Sad thing.
Yeah.
The the traveling part of this takes a toll on things, and but like you said, who you work for and who you're around working with, the guys that's on the job with you, whether it's foremen, superintendents, labor hands, other welders, helpers, that makes a huge difference too. 'Cause it can be
All the difference in
work.
the world.
It can be terrible work, but if you're around a group of good guys that genuinely just want to do the job and have fun, man, it makes all the difference in the world.
110, man.
So
110.
I don't know how you feel about it. I want to ask you about it. I know that you could have said 98. How long was you part of their organization?
I'm still a part of the 798. I still pay my dues. I pay, it's like 31, I think, dollars a month that I pay just to keep my spot on the wheel, and just to be, so I can go to the hall and weld on pipe or whatever
You're
whenever I want.
you're vested with them, right?
I'm not vested. That's one of the reasons why I've kept my book, is because I would like to at least get vested.
Right.
That's one reason. Huh?
That's 5 years to get vested.
It really depends on how many credits you get. Like, I only worked, or no, I guess I did hit 3 calendar years. I worked 2017, 2018, and 2019, but I think I got 2 of those credits in 2017. Is that right? For some reason that doesn't sound right now, but anyway, it depends on how many credits. You got to have 5 credits, and you can get, if you work, I don't have the numbers in my head right now, but you can get 2 credits a year if you work enough.
Right.
So it's really, really about the amount of credits, and I only have 3 credits. I don't have 5, so that's kind of one of the reasons. But another reason is just because it's cool to be a part of. It's cool to be a part of it. I like going to the meetings. I like visiting with them. I like visiting with other pipeliners, like we're doing now. Like, it's like it's just the camaraderie is one of the reasons why I stay.
You're still part of the brotherhood. And like I said, you can go up there and get their coupons and weld on them, and
Mm-hmm.
like I'm gonna have Chad on here the next week. I look
Yeah.
forward to it. The man has a lot of information. I don't think that it's really a podcast that's going to strike home or pertain to the older, the guys that's been welding 6+ years, and some of them it might. I've met some inspectors that's like, well, I welded for 8 years non-union, and I jumped into the union, and I was in there for 15 years or 10 years. So maybe it does, but I just feel like that I have this platform, and I'm going to use it to spread as much about welding, whether it's 798, whether it's non-union. I'm going to do it, spread as much about it as I can, because the younger generations, like not to get a little sidetracked here, but there's this TikTok welder, and he don't do anything that involves the pipeline. He does a lot of machinery repair, a little bit of fencing stuff. He does do some pipe stuff here and there, but he does a lot of machinery and stuff like that. He has a truck,
Sure.
has machines, all this stuff, and it seems to have a pretty lucrative business, you know. So I wanted to have him on the podcast. Well, he was like, dude, he was such a douchebag to me. I'm like, you're talking to a pipeline, bud. First of all, throw your jets, because you're here, and pipeliners are way up here. You're not even close to the top of this pyramid. And this guy called me a nacho eating toolbox. What I don't even know what that means, but he did not want to be part of the podcast, and I'm like, hey, no big
Huh.
deal. Yeah, I mean, he was like, I'm not
Wow.
here discussing my pay and how I bill people. I'm not asking for that, my boy. I'm just asking for you to get on there and share why you do the work that you do. Like,
Yeah. Give another perspective of mobile welding.
yes, mobile welding outside of just being a pipe liner, it's a pretty lucrative business to go weld on equipment. That's a
Yeah,
whole,
absolutely.
it's not, didn't have anything to do with pay scales or anything like that. Like even talking to Chad, the 798 has their scales and non-union has their scales. I'm not getting them on here to talk about money. It's not about money. It's about they have a program that pays you to learn how to be a welder. Pay to go to school $27,000 when you could be over here in this apprenticeship program making very good money working to be a journeyman. I'm just saying for parents uh, that really don't want their kid, their 17, 18, 19-year-old kid to drive across the country to come to work in West Texas where it's extremely dangerous for somebody that they don't know. There's an organization that don't cost you but a due a month to be part of that will teach you how to be a welder, and you make a living doing it. You're not 27 or $30,000 in debt when you become a journeyman there. Just trying to make it well-rounded. That there's more than one ways to skin this cat to become the top of the game welder than outside of paying money, going and being a helper, with the apprenticeship programs. There's a lot of ways to do this. And that's what I'm trying to cover as a full circle to take the kid that's scrolling on his phone looking at the big lifted trucks. There's a bunch of ways to get to all that. Not this path, not my path, not your path, not Joe Blow's path is the right path. You got to find the path that's, ideal for you.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yep. It's super helpful. That's what's neat about social media and everything nowadays. It's a love hate thing. I know you just said, social media, but like it's a love hate thing. If you're searching out positive things, and good things, it's super good, but it can also be the opposite. But yeah, I love that. I love that because I'm an advocate of educating and sharing different perspectives. I love that. Yep.
I think it's just, I mean, like you can't be a closed door, right? It's got to be one of them slapping doors. Some information needs to go through, and some information needs to be let go of. It's a revolving door, so to speak. I don't know. I just hate to see these kids go that far. It's no different than kids that go to college that never going to use that degree. That piece of paper that they give you at blank welding school. Oh, it's it. Are they really truly doing justice for you? I know of a couple that I've met kids from, and know people that's been around that program. I can say that they are doing the right things, but I know others. That the kids, my little girls know more about welding than they know. You know,
Right.
and they can care less about welding. All they care about the cheerleading outfits and show goats are bought. That's what they care about. But I don't know. I just don't want to be a closed door, and I kind of was. I kind of am a little bit to it. But after getting a visit with them, like I don't know what it is, but I have met so many 798 guys this year. It's like just about every other inspector is a 798. Older guys was in the 798. Now they're been inspectors, and they're drawing $13,000 or $14,000 a month, or $11,000 from their pension because they're
Hmm.
retired. and then they're going out here and making $1,000 a day. So who's really the dumbass? I mean, do the math on that because inspectors get paid every day that they show up, or the ones that I know. It's not an hourly rate; it's a day rate. You know, they show up,
Right.
you ain't out, still $800 a day. You know, so, which are 1099, and you got to manage your taxes, but still, I mean, that's a lot of money in a week. You know,
No, for sure. Yeah.
it's off when you're already drawing $10,000 or $11,000.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
four
That's,
outfits,
I got what?
and they got four. You know, they got their insurance and all that. You know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a wise. Um, that's what we are on the 798 subject after all. We kind of sidetracked. But yeah,
yeah.
that is a wise, overall, generally speaking, it's a wise career choice to join a union. Uh, but, as I think we were talking about before, the common hesitation of somebody that's worked non-union for long enough to build a network, 5 years, like myself. I worked 5 years, built a network. Whenever I joined, it was hard to stay busy. You know what I mean? After it slowed down, obviously they needed welders whenever I joined, but it was harder to stay busy, and that's just a reality as of right now. That could change. It's went up and down over the years. You know what I mean? But that's a common hesitation is staying busy. So
That's the
because
non-union
it's
side of things too. I mean, it's up and down, up and down. I mean, that's for anybody trying to get in this lifestyle. It's a gamble every day. It's a gamble driving. It's a gamble taking tests. It's a gamble every time you make a weld. I mean, it's steadily a gamble. It's not a you pass your first test and it's a guarantee because I'm pretty sure it wasn't that way for you. If it was, that's amazing. But I know enough people to know that it don't go that way. You know?
No, not at all. Not at all. I definitely don't expect that. Don't expect it to be that good because yeah, it's not that way usually.
You spent a lot of your career in what would be the Northeast, correct? Ohio, what do they call it? The Mid Valleys? I don't know.
Uh, I always call it the Northeast. There's another
Yeah,
name, but
there's another name for it.
yeah, uh, yeah. I spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. I did go to North Dakota, Montana. Uh, Worked in Colorado a couple times. Worked in Texas once. It's where I met Bo Jackson, but and then Tennessee one time. But majority of it was Northeast. Yeah.
I wanted to go lay pop in West Virginia this one time, just to say I did it, and I would be over it. It's kind of like I made my trip this year. I went down there. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Don't really feel like it's something that I've got to go do again. You know,
Where's that? Where'd you say?
to Florida, I don't feel like I've got to go back to Florida to weld again. Uh, but I would like to go to West Virginia. Pennsylvania looks super cool. And the pictures I see some buddies that's been up there to Ohio. I had a chance to go to Ohio earlier this year, but it was raining a lot there, and I was like, man, that's a lot of money left on the table for some place that's going to rain every day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But for
Yeah,
now,
for
I'm
sure.
done for a little bit. I'm going to try to stay home in Texas for a while. So you done it with like 8 years that you pipeline. So what made you decide to go this other route to where you're staying at home. Uh, you got your own mobile welding there. Y'all do. What made you decide to do that? I mean, was it kids or
No, we don't have any kids, but we do have a 5-year-old nephew. That's one of the biggest reasons my wife wanted to stay home, but he wasn't 5 at the time. It's been 2019. I guess it's been close to 5 years since I've even been on the road. So right around the time he was born, my wife was like, I kind of want to spend more time at home. But no kids, but we do have him, and he has a younger brother now, and we also have a niece, but she lives in South Dakota. But the reason it started out being, uh, well, pipeline got slow, so it probably about a year into me, waiting and looking for a pipeline job in the union, I finally decided I can't, you know what I mean? This isn't working, but I didn't want to turn in my book. And I wasn't going to work non-union. That's just, a lot of guys do whatever. Everybody's got different opinions on it, but I wasn't going to. You know what I mean? I knew what I signed up for. I joined the union. I knew the rules. I wasn't gonna. You know what I mean? So I said, well, I got to do something, and that's whenever we just decided we got to readjust our efforts into just pushing on our own business at home. Start focusing on it instead of just waiting. You know what I mean, for this phone call. You know what I mean? It just wasn't. It was a business decision essentially. You know what I mean? Like it. Um, if I would have waited, it would have been. I think it was like 2 years before I got low enough on the wheel to actually have a chance at going on a job.
Dang, that's always crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah. Which I've always, for me, again, like you said, everybody's situation's different. And that's why you got to do what's right for you and your situation. And I stress that all the time. Uh, but for me, I've always, I was mobile welding before I went pipeline, and I've just always been
Right.
I've always, so it was just natural for me. A lot of 798 guys were going on building trades jobs to stay busy, and that is a good option if you don't mind doing that type of work. I tell people all the time, if I didn't have the mobile welding history that I did, I would have definitely went on a building trades job for the benefits. You know what I mean? Keep putting towards my pension. Like I would have tried it.
Their credit
Yeah.
scores are different, but you can still gain a credit to be as far as vested.
Yeah. 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 They usually don't match. So you got to work more hours essentially to get same credit. But from a, long term thinking aspect and thinking about my retirement and all that stuff, I would have went and tried it. And that's coming from somebody that has the like I for the longest time had a bad attitude towards uh you know the 798. Like I'm part of the 798 because I want a pipeline. Like that was my attitude,
Right.
and I still would have done that because of the business aspect, because of my retirement aspect. You know what I mean? Um, so I'm not saying it's a good attitude, but I'm just trying to be honest in the fact that like I had that attitude. Like I joined the 798 to pipeline weld. You know what I mean? I don't want to go work building trades. So I mean I do kind of side with that, but thankfully, you know what I mean, I have this other that I'm used to doing, don't mind doing, I love doing. I can be home, do mobile welding. So
Yeah.
uh,
And I think there's a
you're
lot of
right.
guys that have that same opinion, as far as like, they joined the 798 to pipeline. And from what I've gathered with the few conversations I had, they don't want to go do building trades, but they also don't want to do non-union, or can't do non-union or whatever. It's just it's a tough spot to be in to count on something that's, too many variables to it have to all click right for it to be, for it to be a greased wheel, so to speak. But I know guys, it's like, man, I never had to look for a job. Blah blah blah. I was hooked up for 20 years in the 798, and I just, yeah, probably 20 years ago that was probably the way it was. But now you're like, they don't come into Texas, they can't compete in Texas. But our wages
Yeah,
are
they
lower. I mean, you're talking about. It don't sound like a lot when you're saying 40 to 54, on your arm. But when you start adding overtime and all that in there, it becomes quite a bit of chunk of money. The difference that when you're bidding a job, I don't know what a company bids a job for, so to speak. But if the union's paying you 54, well, they're going to be making 100 something off of you. And if the
right.
company, they're paying you 40, they're making 100 something off of you. The Pipeliners organization that's around Texas that Troy and all them's part of, kind of like a union. If you ask me, it's kind of like their own little group of these businesses, like contractors got their own little group. But, heaven forbid, the welders have their own little group, I don't know. I see a lot of both of the sides, and I try to be extremely unbiased to it. But there's some things that I agree to with it. You know?
Yeah, no, I think it's healthy to be open minded and not biased. I would encourage more people to do that. Um, and ultimately, I'll just talk about what you already said, which is doing what's right for you in your situation. That's ultimately what I think everybody should do. They should look within do what you know what I mean? Like, don't worry about, take accountability for your actions
For sure.
and what you can change. You know what I mean? And like, don't point the finger so much is what I'm saying. Like, I could say, you know what I mean? I got, you know, I could look at one guy over here and one guy over here and, you know, say that ultimately you need to make the decision for yourself. You know what I mean? Like you have to do what's right for you type thing. You know what I mean?
For sure. For sure. The so how did the YouTube channel come about? You know, how did that whole thing? What made you decide on that?
Uh, so my wife, Kayla, she was traveling with me whenever we were pipelining, and she's a natural entrepreneur herself, and she was she had her own. She went to college and got a like a web design and uh, something else degree, but she got into photography. She had her own photography business whenever we first started traveling. Whenever we were 21 years old, roughly, and that's right whenever I started pipelining, 21, 22, and she, because of the pipeline lifestyle, she more or less shut her business down so she could travel on the road with me. And she was watching YouTube, watching people vlog their lives and stuff. So she started vlogging our life. To that was kind of an outlet for her, was to kind of share with people what, you know, because she followed other RV people that traveled in RVs, but I don't, to my knowledge, there wasn't nobody sharing, you know, the pipeline life, and she wasn't focused on the pipeline life, but it came naturally. You know, she was filming what she did all day as a, you know, a stay-at-home wife in the camper, and you know, people started asking questions about the welding stuff because she would mention, you know, we're out here because my husband's pipeline welder or whatever, you know what I mean? And then people started asking about the welding stuff and the welding truck, and she actually created a few. This was on a different channel than I have today, called Austin and Kayla, and so she started filming all that, and people asked about the welding stuff, and then oh, that's what I was gonna say, was she created a playlist of like commonly asked questions. Like, it was very clear that there was a gap in information on the internet about welding in general, but especially pipeline welding. They're like, there wasn't nobody, like, very little being shared about pipeline welding. So she made this playlist, and we filmed a couple of videos together. Never thought I would have my own channel whatsoever because she was the one that started all this. But as the years went by, that was in 2014 or 2015 whenever she started filming. And in 2017, uh, before this, but I mean, in 2017, before this, we were talking about it. But in 2017, is that November or middle of 2017? I think it was the end of 2017. I'd have to go look on my channel. But anyway, we decided to start my channel just focused on the welding and the pipeline stuff. That way she could kind of have her, her channel back, because it was, you know what I mean? It was clear that people were hungry for this information.
For sure.
So we started the education, you know, we just started making educational videos about what I did, which was, you know, uh, pipeline. So, and just all my experience and everything. So that's how it got started, is because of my wife.
And now you've kind of transitioned it. You know, not so much about the pipeline anymore. I mean, I'm sure I hadn't gone through and watched every video, but I'm sure it's still you still share those experiences on your page. But you know, you have the pipe building class I seen on your website the other day, or the fence building class. I think that's super cool. You know, because there's kids out here that you know they might have saved a little money. You know, during the school year, they could go pick up a little Miller Bobcat for nothing and put it in the back of a Ranger and want to build pipe fence all summer. You know, it's a
That's
legal,
right.
especially in Texas, probably Oklahoma too. They're building pipe fence everywhere. You know,
Oh yeah.
or
Oh
little
yeah.
fish or whatever. You know, these kids that have taken vocational school or a trade school or ag program, maybe that's what they want to do. You know, it's I think it's super interesting that part of it. I'm not good, like me and Nate's talked about it. I'm not good at explaining. I am to a helper that I deal with every day. Like I can explain to him very well how to do this job. Like to take the time to, to make it a well-rounded product for everybody, to where everybody can pick up on the information. I'm not good at that. No, that's not me. I can do it to one person in our setting, our work setting, and make him understand of why it's got to be done this way. I can do that, but I'm just not. I want to do dumb. I just want to do dumb stuff. If I'm gonna do TikTok, it's not going to involve the podcast. I want to do the little money. Just talk out my butt about goofiness. I don't,
Yeah,
but I can't get into that either. I can't post enough to be relevant in it. That's okay. I don't really care to be a social media presence outside of the podcast. Like it bothers me at times that people are like, "You're the podcast, and are you just podcast and shit like that?" That stuff kind of bugs me, because first and foremost, I'm a welder over everything. I'm a pipeliner, but at the same time, it's not. At least they're listening to it. I'll take that.
that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Because I've said it before,
Well, and
I'll say it again. I would like to just solely do this for a living. Not to be out in the heat, not to be out in the cold, make my own hours up.
in my opinion, it's good that you're focusing because from our experience, because me and my wife are natural entrepreneurs and like well, not just that, and that has nothing to do with it. I should say because you're a natural entrepreneur too. I should say uh, all the opportunity that comes with putting yourself out there. I mean, you've probably already experienced this, but we naturally you want to take advantage of opportunity that comes your way. Well, with the internet, it's like a flood of opportunity.
Yeah.
So we kind of, because not only are opportunities coming our way, but we see opportunities in what we're already doing. That's why my wife has built the inner circle that we have. That's why we built the trade school. That's why we have this online store, because she sees opportunity to, make a living, and not have to trade time for money forever. You know what I mean? So it's like, but what I'm getting at is because of over the years we've kind of, we've had to literally recently hone it in and focus more. Like, so the fact that you're focusing, I'm telling you, is huge. It's like, because if you go the other way like we did, it's hectic trying to get it back honed in. It's not worth a darn. So it's good that you're focusing. Trust me.
Before we started the whole podcast, I talked about how it became a second job. You understand that extremely well. It's
Yeah.
when you're trying to do two things and be really good. Not just. I tried to treat this like it was just like welding. Like everyone counts. Every single podcast I do has to be a good has to be something that I'm proud of. That's and it become a job. And then the people started hammering me about when's the next one coming out. And that's what you want. That's what you should want. People to be anxious for it. But I don't know. I liked it a lot better when I was sitting in the cab of my truck in Kansas and I done them. The first couple of them, that was way easier. Just cool, just BSing. And then it kind of just snowballed a little bit. But now I've been able to bring it back in. I said Tuesdays, Thursdays are set aside. I'm gonna get up with this guy, see what day he's available. I'm gonna put it in my little Apple calendar, and no matter what, whether it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, that time to this time, if they can do it, if they can agree to it, then why can't I agree to it? That still gives me Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, Sundays I've been trying to set aside to edit podcasts, but it still gives you most of your days to be free doing whatever.
Yeah. One of the well, you're doing great. I mean, the fact that you're learning along the way that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Just getting better. I mean, I like the analogy you used about, pipeline welding. Like, that's a whole nother subject in itself that we could talk about in another podcast. But a lot of people that don't pipeline, they're like, "Oh, you weld pipe? That ought to be boring." You know what I mean? You think that get boring? I'm like, you don't understand. But anyway, that's a whole deal in itself. Because I talk a lot about there's always room for improvement, and just as well as I do, pipelining for I think you and I have been or pipelined. Well, you probably longer than me now since I haven't been pipelining 5 years, but you're about my age, and I pipelined long enough to and since I'm a learner, and it sounds like you are too, like as long as you're a learner and you're a sponge, you can always improve that weld. You can always improve. There's something slightly different every single time. I don't care. I don't care how much you do it. I'm just a firm believer in that. I just think there's always room for improvement. One of the one of the biggest lessons that I learned from pipelining was the power in focus. So, like after starting, after not pipelining and deciding to stay home and work on building our own business, one of the things that I've learned, because there's been times where I'm like, God, I just want to go on a pipeline job. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to go, you know what I mean?
For sure.
You know what I mean? Because easier and I evaluated it and I was like, that's because whenever I'm pipelining, I'm hired to weld the pipe. All I got to take care of is my truck and getting myself there, obviously camper, that whole nine, but like getting there. But when I'm on the job, I'm focused on everything's got to be right with this truck. Got to keep it running, got to keep it, stocked up. And I'm there to weld the pipe. I'm not saying we don't do anything else ever, but I'm just saying on fabrication, you take measurements and all that stuff. But I'm saying that is a job in itself, welding. You know what I mean? That's why if you study the process of pipeline, they have a crew for right away that cuts right away. They got a crew that cuts ditch. They got a crew that uh, bends the pipe. They got crews for every single thing. And I was like, no wonder running a business is so stressful because you know what I mean? You're having to do so much all the time, which lends to that, what I'm talking about focusing and why it's so. Having a podcast, you could delegate so much right now. Editing, scheduling, you could delegate those two things and still have a solid business, because that's a job in itself. But having a podcast is a job in itself, and you could delegate within that a bunch. You could just walk on, and everything can be ready for you, and you could just walk on and film your podcast, and you know what I mean.
I hope that eventually I find somebody that I can trust to be like, okay, send this to you. Which everything becomes more professional as you do it. The first six, I will say, was just being rowdy, just being with the boys. We're gonna turn on the mics. We're just gonna say and do whatever we want to do. That's it. But as I've gotten better at it and gotten more people to be involved with it, I've learned that I wanted to be more professional, which takes away a lot of the editing, takes away a lot of that, But if I will find somebody hopefully one day. There's the website that Chris told me about. I'm not asking again, but you can go on there and you can find people who do anything as far as internet's concerned. They do editing, videography, everything. So I get on there, but until it's its own little thing, making its own money, then I'll just do it. They pay me a little bit, but not enough.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's good to. There's a lot of stuff we haven't even delegated yet, but I think a higher power. I think it's good for us that it's good for your business to do something yourself and learn it. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of power in that, like learning it yourself, because you can then delegate better. You know what I mean? So that's all part of the process, as you've mentioned also. So
Like Chris taught me last week. You send me your bio. Because I have a MacBook, I have an iPad, I have an iPhone. I just copy it on my iPhone. For the MacBook, it's got this little spot where I can put notes at. I just click right there, hit paste, boom, it's there. So I can scroll through the whole little bio you sent me and pick up little tad bits, and I don't have to stare at a phone screen or scroll back to my phone. So it looks like I'm extremely professional, but it's just a little thing I learned last week. It's perfect.
absolutely, I love it, dude. That's what it's all about.
It's
You
learning.
and I could talk all day about. We could talk all day about this tech stuff that couple of pipeliners getting into.
I wish I took a computer class they had offered in school. Like they offered one, but we're the same age, by the way. I'm 34 too. They offered a computer class at school, and me and my buddy was like, we don't need to know nothing about computers. We didn't have cell phones, we didn't even care about it. And then here we are 15 years later, 20 years later. I'm like, man, I really wish I took that because I'm over here typing like, huh? But
Yeah.
the platforms that I've gotten to know pretty well and have gotten acquainted with, they're fixing to become one platform. Riverside, Spotify is fixing to be all this one thing. Like Spotify bought out Anchor, which is where I first started, the first platform I had to record podcasts. Spotify bought those out. Well, now Riverside is also owned by Spotify. So it's
Hmm.
making it way more convenient because it's just one place I have to go to do everything I want to do anyway. We finish up here, excuse me, we finish up here. It has an AI generator that will already edit the podcast. It's going to pull out all the little spaces to where we said, it's going to make our video quality better. And then they're going to give me clips to put on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, Reels, whatever you want to call them. It'll give me
Wow.
the transcript of our whole conversation. It's going to put it in an audio file for me to share to Apple and Spotify.
Isn't that amazing? How
It's,
fast technology is.
Spotify understands about corner. All this is a monopoly. They took all these other little people that was doing stuff and they just bought them out and put it in one spot, one stop shop. It says Riverside, but it ain't. It says powered by Spotify, Riverside. But it's been a huge learning curve, but they luckily, like I told you, I don't know if I said about it in the podcast or prior to it, but I didn't really understand. They sent me a whole little video broken down so I could learn it. And it's worked out. It's worked out pretty good. One time
Yeah.
I hit the record button, I had I don't even know how long the conversation I had, but it wasn't recording the whole time.
That's frustrating, ain't it?
Yeah, but I had the audio part. It was good. That's the best part.
See, you're intelligent. That's slick. Having that backup upon backup. Come on.
It's kind of like an OSHA rule. Everything's written in blood around here. It's a mistake that was made that I won't do again. So,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
But it's all been a learning curve. Yeah. Like these doggone mics, man. That's one of the most aggravating things with terrible was these microphones. But I don't feel like that I get this around the word. I don't feel like I get if I don't use the microphone. The MacBooks are pretty good, and the iPad's pretty good and stuff. But I want that crisp, good quality.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you're recording a podcast, it's mostly about our voices being perfect, so people can retain information. So when you moved on to a web, okay, so now you have the arosweldon.com, the store. What made y'all go with that venture?
That I'll just to blanket everything that we're doing online. My wife, Kayla, she's the brains behind all of AROS Welding and everything we've built online. I'm trying to think. So we had before we started my welding channel, or actually, I think no, we launched it earlier that year. A brand that my wife had created, which is called Industrial Tradition, and she had she designed a whole the logo. She did the whole nine and created this brand, and got merch made. And so that's what we were actually selling first on our family channel was Industrial Tradition stuff, uh, shirts, stickers, hats, and stuff. And once we started, the welding channel, the Austin Ross channel, to focus mostly on the welding stuff, we started creating stuff for it. The online, the hats, the shirts. Now we have tools, grasshoppers, grinder holders, circle burners. We got tools and stuff over there now, some, and steadily adding to it. But that's where it stemmed was from her, and just again another opportunity to try to monetize what we're doing for a living. You know what I mean?
1 second here. The one thing I don't like about they only let you record in hour segments on the old Anchor platform. This is a never-ending thing. As long as we talk, this thing's recording. My phone records the whole conversation. That's the only thing that I have to complain about that platform, the OG platform that I use, is that it records an hour segments, and I always forget that. So sometimes I miss a little bit of the conversation. But and to wrap up the monetize thing, branding yourself in these times, branding what you're doing is like a huge, it's a huge part of it, so to speak. Like I'm not good at the branding part of it. I'm fixing to have some. Hopefully, the website will be later this week. It's going to be T-shirts, koozies, stickers, that sort of thing for out on the road. It's. I was hoping to have the sweatshirts or the hoodies back in when it's cold weather. It didn't really line up right, but I don't have the time to have that stuff shipped to me, go through it, put on shipping labels, and send it on. So the biggest thing was finding somebody to fill in that, delegate that to them. I think I have the right setup for that. I hope.
Yeah. Well, that just goes back to it being a job in itself, like having a podcast and trying to have you know what I mean, all the legs that can go with the podcast, which one of them is merch, you know what I mean? Like that's one of the, like I said, we could have a whole conversation about
Yeah.
about social media and branding and everything because it's it, it's fun learning it, but it's not easy, not for guys like you and I. You know what I mean?
Um, so let me hit you with this. So I always like to ask these questions. Let's go back to the very first year of career, right? When you're working at the steel yard there. What's a piece of information that you learned in that time that has been value or is still a value in your life today that you would share with the younger kids?
What I learned back then,
Yeah, something that you learned that is still with you today.
um, well, the first thing that's coming to mind is a fabrication. Uh, like all my well, I could round it. I could include all my fabrication skills, like not all of them because I've learned more over the years, but like the fundamentals of fabrication, framing up a rectangle just a simple gate, for instance,
Yeah.
on jack stands. I learned that whenever I worked there because the guy Bobby Flores was the shop foreman whenever I worked there. Old school guy. We didn't. I think Stillwater still has a table now because nowadays they got them tables, but back then we didn't have them. That's how you built stuff was in jack stands. You know what I mean? And so just everything I learned about building stuff in jack stands was super helpful. So like just the basic fabrication fundamentals.
Um, which relates into reading ISOs, blueprints to some people, but welders we tend to work off of ISOs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and kind of I like to ask these questions as going on, but we kind of got on and they kind of got skipped out. So the middle part of your career, what bit of information did you learn? Like when you, not so much when you went to take the test in Oklahoma, but a few tests down the line there, maybe a year, 2.5, to where you got there.
What? Sorry, what's your question about midway through?
A piece of information that you picked up midway that's kind of stuck with you the whole time.
Um, midway. I mean, if you call midway, I mean, so yeah, like you said, when I was pipelining roughly, I'm glad the AI is going to take out these pauses. I love that you're making me think, though. That's good. Um,
Everybody says that too. I love that you're making me think. Everybody says
oh,
that.
dude, it's good. It's good for the soul. It really is. I like that. That's how we learn better. You know what I mean? I love it.
A generic question or generic answer to a generic question. Everybody wants to come up with that latest, like, ooh, we're gonna have that one little punchline.
Um, midway. That's a tough one for me. I'm such a learner and a sponge that I'm wearing this hat like that's what I do, man. Like I just learn about stuff. But in the middle of my career, what did I learn? I am going to pull out. what I learned whenever I was pipelining that I didn't know I was learning, really, I kind of knew I was learning it, but was like efficiency as a craftsman.
Yeah.
So like, so just to give perspective, I didn't know how good I was getting at stick welding from welding pipe every day. You know that repetition is the mother of learning. I didn't realize how. That sounds boastful, but like I didn't realize that I was getting because to me I just started pipelining. Whenever you know what I mean, 7 years. Like I just started. Like I wanted to keep learning and keep learning about pipelining. You know what I mean? So to me, I wasn't. I had just begun. So what I'm getting at is, I come home while I was waiting on a pipeline gig after in 2019. So within the first year of me being laid off my last pipeline job, I was helping a buddy, Mitchell Perry, mobile rig welder around here in Oklahoma. He had some work, some fence to build, and I just went to work for him welding pipe fence. And he hasn't pipelined. He worked on drilling rigs a long time. He's real sharp. He's a machinist background. He's like an engineer in his head. He's really good at what he does. But uh, no experience downhill. So again, giving perspective about who was looking at my welds. You know what I mean? He was like, "Holy cow, that's slick," and I was like I didn't think much of it.
For sure.
After he said that, I kept welding, and the rest of the day I was like, I noticed that I was in a rhythm because of pipelining. You know what I mean? Like I was just everything. I set up everything. I got everything ready. My raw bucket, the organization as a pipeline welder, you learn organization and you learn efficiency. You know what I mean? And so in the middle of my career, I learned a lot about stick welding as a craft. You know what I mean? Like prepping stuff to make your job go easier. That's what I learned midway through my
They
stick welding career.
I've noticed that same thing at times. You know, you go. I got some buddies that build fence and stuff, and you go over there and they have their hands that they hired, but then they like you come home and you're just bored and you want to, go make a little money or whatever. And you go over there and them guys don't do things how we do them. Like you pretty much know what the tools involved to do what you're doing at the moment. So you gather them all up and you have them all out there handy. These guys, which I understand they get paid by the hour and this is their everyday job. So they go over there and they get a weld made on a joint to a post or whatever. But then they need to buff it off, because you can't leave. Well, guys that paint fences, they you got to get it buffed off there so they can paint it or whatever you can paint it. Well, they don't have a grinder, they don't have a buffer. So they go back to the truck, get a buffer. It's just like you said. We're extremely efficient, or try to be extremely efficient at our jobs. Even though we don't get paid by the wheel, we get paid by the hour. Whether we're there for 2 hours or 20 hours, it's still. But whatever it takes to make like you throwing like circle burners and stuff on your website, like that's something to make our job more efficient and easier. People buy them, or certain levels that people buy that Flames Wizard makes their job more efficient. That's that's a good point that you brought up there. I really like that because pipeliners. I'm not saying that there ain't combo welders that the exact same way, but they rely on fitters to do half of their job, not the welding part of it, but fitters do the majority of the welder's job in a plant compared to a pipeliner who is his own fitter. Him, the helper, or the fitter. They work together to get it done. It's not because most people have green helpers. It's not like you like a year and a half or a year and a month. But I've had plenty. It takes time to get them to where they are good fitters. They can read ISOs and know what pup they're picking out. All this takes time for me to have the faith in them to go do it, and for them to retain the information to go over and look at an ISO and be like, okay, I need this part off this drawing. It's this many feet or this many inches, and go over there and get that part. Well, I needed two flanges, or I need a flange and a 90 and a T. It's the a helper to a pipeliner is just another tool to make you more efficient at your job. It's
110, yeah.
you know, like
They can be super valuable if they want to be,
Are super
because it makes a good welder. A good helper makes a good welder
good helpers
for
make good
sure.
welders. It's a fact. It's a proven fact. And some I know very good welders. Before I get my head bit off on this one, I know very good welders that was never helpers. I'm not saying that you have to be a good helper to be a good welder. I'm just saying, in my experiences, good helpers make good welders. That's just part of it.
Oh, for sure, because you learn everything. Uh, well, you just have a lot of the processes as you were speaking. What come to mind was like systems and processes, like we learned, and that's what I mean by craftsman. I use the word craftsman, but like as a craftsman working by yourself and with a helper, like a a business owner that trains a crew and then builds another crew. Like if you're good at training, you can do this with a crew in a business also, but it's a lot harder. But as a pipeline welder, I, we were it's if you're trying to get better, you naturally build in these systems. You learn what comes next because it's repetitive. That repetitive helps you get you know helps you get helps you be efficient because you have several chances
Yeah.
to figure out what's next. And you would think that would come easy, but like guys like myself that are hard headed, it takes a lot. You know what I mean?
It
To
goes back
For
to
something to sink in.
you like to say that you're a sponge, right? Like you're on a job site and you're doing your job, but you're kind of watching the truck next to you, and he does something that you're like, I'm going to try that, put it in my repertoire over here, and I'm going to try. Maybe not right then because you don't want him, to take notice. But, next day there's a truck between y'all, and you try it. You're like, dang, that's that much quicker right there. So
Yeah.
you start
Oh
to
yeah.
pick up on it, and you might watch another guy over here, and he might do something you're like, I like it, but you carry it back to your truck and you try to do it, and it don't click for your process. It it disrupts your flow or whatever. But you just discard it. It's that simple. It's easy, and I say the process a lot because I'm from Alabama, and that's what I mean. Nick Saban, the process. We've heard it for the last 17 years. So I always say the process. I don't know. It's just you know,
I can't remember where I heard that.
yep, that's it.
I can't remember where I heard that, but yeah, yeah. It's funny that you say that because it must have been another podcast or something I was listening to. But yeah,
That's
yep,
the for years and years
it's everything.
was the Alabama football coach, and he talked about the process. That's all he ever talked about. So I say the process a lot when it comes to dealing with helpers and building welders and anything. It's just and like to be a great at anything, you have to be a sponge. You have to take what information is valuable to what you're doing. It either helps you or it doesn't. You got to be able to let it go and pick something else up to add to what you're doing. And they put that kind of in a nutshell there. It's like you say, it's important to be a sponge. A sponge takes in information, but it can also let it out too. I think that's very valuable when it comes to being a craftsman or a tradesman or a pipeliner or a rig welder or whatever you want to label us as. Then I think that's very valuable to for the process, so to speak. All right. I,
That's right.
I think it's important to be open to go into situations. When you're around new welders, this is one of my favorite things about going on new jobs. Like when you're around a bunch of guys you don't know, because it's a bunch of peacocks out there. It's everybody. It's you know, it's one of my favorite things. There's a tension in the air. Who's the alpha? Who's and a lot of that gets separated when the hoods drop. It's hard. Everybody can stand up and blow, bust out their chests and pop their collars and put on their white caps. Anybody can do that. But when the hoods drop, that's a whole different process in itself. That goes to having a very good helper too, though, because you're only as fast as the weakest link in the part. Whether it's a brother-in-law partner, whether it's his helper, whether it's your helper, whether it's yourself, you're only as fast as what you have in that little group. If you're by yourself, or with your helper, then it's in y'all's little group, but they're only as fast as each other and get to the bottom of the pipe. You can't move on without one or the other, or you shouldn't move on without one or the other. That's rude in itself. I'm not saying that you can't stand up if the wind's blowing straight to you and you're getting ate up with sparks as he's coming across the bottom, but little stuff like that. That's an understanding between you and your brother-in-law partner. Like you say, hey man, I'm gonna crawl up on a knee here so I'm not getting ate up with sparks. Little shit like that.
Right, right.
Where people's jumped up and taken off to the next well. What are you doing to do that? What did you do? What did that person do to you to deserve that? First of all, second of all, you can't start a weld until he gets up there. So what good did it do?
Right.
So that's another conversation in itself. So what do you have planned? Like for I know like I mentioned earlier the pipe fence building classes. Is that like you're going to do more on that classroom segments?
Yeah, yeah. We plan on, like, my wife's working on a branding and marketing course right now that will add to the. It's like, I mean, just think of it like an online trade school. We got plans to make all kinds of courses, but yeah, we've uh, yeah, all kinds, all kinds.
I think that's super cool. I feel like it's because not this is kind of like resorting back to high school question or a high school statement here, right? Like you got the kids that excel very well in the classroom, right? Like they can go to a welding school or whatever and even excel very well. They can take in the knowledge. And then you got a kid that's kind of standoffish that don't, or even a guy, an older guy. I mean, it could be a guy that just wants to learn. Maybe he's worked the last 10 years in the office building. He's like, man, I would like to know how to do something with my hands. But not have to hire somebody to come out here and build my fence that I want to fence in my backyard. No, John, I think it's super cool because a lot of people self image is a huge thing in our life. People don't think about it too much, but that's why we have Facebook. That's why Facebook and Instagram and all that shit has been so successful because everybody wants a booming self image. They want everybody to love them. Blah blah blah. I quit caring a long time ago, but a lot of people. That's what keeps that stuff going on the up. Is and it also suicide rates and all that on the up too. It's hand in hand. That I watched a thing today on TikTok talking about the leap from 2019 to 2020. The suicides that happen in the country is outrageous, and the age bracket in that is even more outrageous. Talking about how they took the kids out of school, and there's not every household in America, but there's some rough households in America. Well, the kids' only way of being away from that was that 6, 7, 8 hours they was at school. They was away from the mental, physical, emotional abuse that they was getting at home. And the COVID time took that away from them. They were strapped in that every day, and it's I don't know. It just kind of hit me. That kind
Dude, yeah,
of the
that's extremely, uh, god dang, yeah, extremely hard to.
but
That's terrible.
the age bracket from 2019 to 2020 on the suicides. I mean, it was like 16 to 22 years old. The number had jumped like it had doubled from the 2000s, the early 2000s, the suicide rate for I can't remember the exact numbers, but it jumped double, almost tripled that in 1 year. Not a decade like the first statistics was a decade. This was talking about 1 year. It was crazy. Like they talk about all that stuff, but that's a whole other conversation in itself. But like kids worry about self image. People worry about self image. Like everybody wants to think that they know all the answers to everything. So I think the online classroom, to wrap this up, is a good way for people to be sneaky about it and say, man, I want to do this, but I don't want to go over to a Botech with a bunch of 20-year-old kids, at this college to take this class. I think it's great.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Yeah, yeah.
or maybe they don't have,
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
time. Maybe they work 50 hours a week and they can take it on a Saturday. It's something like that.
Oh, the benefits are huge, man. I'm amazed at the virtual world we live in. Like, I'm so excited about our online trade school because of. I mean, you can literally learn things faster. You can learn it at your own pace. You can learn it in your own elements. You can. I mean, all. I mean, but that the whole aspect that you brought up, like just the self confidence realm. You know what I mean? You can that own pace, your own area, like that mental aspect alone is that's kind of. I'm not saying I haven't thought about it, but just I loved hearing your take on it. Is what I'm saying. That was, yeah, you're right.
It's one
It's
thing I
cool.
kind of learned, like recording these podcasts with people, especially when I started doing the video part of it. People are a little bit different about it. It's not everybody reacts the same. Which, of course, you spend a lot of time in front of the camera. I'm sure if I done one with Joel Welch or Jonathan Valdez, any of them guys, they spend a lot of time in front of the camera. But like take Bo for instance, it was a little bit of a which the mics messed up and stuff. But anyways, it was interesting the way he would look at the camera. Like he wanted to look at me because we sat at his dinner table. And he wanted to look at me, but at the same time he wanted to just stare down the camera. I don't know. It was fun to watch. It was fun to be around them. It was just people are something else. If you take the time to watch people and their mannerisms, sometimes it will blow your mind. The things people do when
Oh
they
yeah.
feel uncomfortable, or they're in an uncomfortable situation. Like I have a bad habit of doing this, and it's the nerve ticker if it's what I'm doing here, and talking with my hands. This is another thing. I'm bad about that. I try to fold them like this and keep them in my lap.
People comment on my YouTube videos all the time. Quit waving your hands around. Like I can't help it. Whenever I'm talking about, I get passionate, man.
Yeah. And that goes back to Nick Saban. I mean, 17 years of my life, I watched this guy talk about football on TV, and it's doing like this. And I want to get a point across. I feel like I got to have my hands up.
Yeah, got to. Whether you can see me or not, I've got to do it. You're on the phone with somebody.
Walking around and you're waving your hands. So do you think that not to move it along, do you think that if the 798 your number was punched tomorrow and they called and said, we got a job in, let's say, Bixby, Oklahoma, Tulsa, the east side or whatever side it is that Bixby's on in Tulsa. I don't know. How far is Tulsa from you? What?
About an hour.
Yeah. So they an hour from the house. Would you be interested in going to do that, or you think that you got too much on your plate to break out the pickup on that sort of thing?
Would I be interested? Yes.
Yeah.
Would I go? No.
Yeah.
Because I'm too busy with our own stuff right now. If it came, because I want to say if you get low enough on the wheel, I want to say they will. I don't know if you have to take it. No, I think what happens, I could be wrong about this, so don't quote me anybody, but I think if you get low enough on the wheel and nobody has taken the job and they need to fill the job, they start calling, like they call number one. And if you don't take it, I'm pretty sure you go to the end of the line. And I would just have to go to the end of the line at this point. Like, and I don't even like it saying that. Like that kind of hurts my soul because but like I said, I was real passionate about pipeline. I am real passionate, but after about 3 years, like I said, it's been about 5 now, but it took me about 3 years to kind of come to terms and make decisions. As that's the thing about life is, I mean, life and like business in general, like you have to decide on what it is you want to focus on if you want to make, if you want to cover any substantial ground in what you're doing. And I get so much fulfillment out of YouTube that like I couldn't see myself not doing it. And so just building out these things that people like, like our online trade school. And I mean, that's mainly our focus. Is what we're trying to hone in on. Just building it out and teaching people like about business. The more I learn about business, like the more I want to teach it. And so that's I just see myself like using my platform to help people, and to do that efficiently and like good. Unfortunately I have to say no to pipeline right now. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's tough. Like my optimistic mind, I envision a day where I can go on a pipeline job like once a year. You know what I mean? Like 2 or 3 months, and then don't go for, you know what I mean. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Like I like to never say never about a lot of things, but I feel like seeing guys quit the pipeline and go home, and they're just content. They're good with it. And then I've seen guys go home and you see them or you call them on the phone, ask them. You can just hear the I'm going to say despair, but you can just hear that maybe it's not what they had in mind when they went home. It's I don't know, but I know a lot of guys that are extremely happy to be at home. They've sold all their stuff. They're done.
Mm.
But I know
Hmm.
guys that they sold their stuff because they thought they was doing the best for their family and their circumstances. Which everybody's got to respect that. But you just talk to them, and it's like I don't know. They sound like a piece of them is just dead. And I think it's a hard. I don't know. And it may not be. It may just be the day and the time, and it may not be that way. But I feel like if I said that I was just done, never coming back, just done with the pipeline, I feel like that I would have a tough time with that overall.
It's tough if you know what I mean. Like it's clear that you understand. Once you, I don't know, man. I I think other people could relate to it in other industries, but I mean, since we're on a pipeline podcast and talking about pipeline, like just once you've delved into learning about welding pipe and the lifestyle and everything, like it just, I mean, it's hard to it's hard to see yourself doing anything else. Luckily, because of social media, you can. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas running through my head right now. Like I can tie what I love doing to what I do online. You know what I mean?
For sure, for sure.
Which is
And,
cool. Same thing you're doing.
yeah, it was like a professional athlete. We're professionals in our own ways. It's like them,
Absolutely.
they talk about they miss the competitiveness of being on a basketball court or a football field or in a boxing ring, whatever. I mean, look at what Mike Tyson was going to do. He don't need the money. He don't need the publicity. It's just for the sole fact that he wanted to get in there and break somebody's skull. That's all it's about. It's like I guess just a and once something gets into it's not so much that it becomes your identity, but it's just it gets so deep into you that longing for it I think is always there. Whether you go home and you got your kids or your dog or whatever you got going on, I think that it's hard to beat the feeling of getting a phone call and getting in your truck, hooking to your camper, and going down the road. It's hard. It's hard to beat that. Or hanging out on a Saturday afternoon at the camper with all the guys cooking steaks. It's something that I feel like is hard to get out of your system. Where it's being on 100 miles of pipe with all your buddies just welding all day and shooting shit all night. I think it's just a hard thing to get out of it. And the money's good. I think that's another huge problem that people have when they kind of get out of this and go to a normal job. A 40-hour a week job when we're all used to working 60 hours a week. That's why I feel like it's so successful for like Bernardo Sanchez or you or Nate or anybody that's like a trade in general oriented, and then they start their business because they just all they do is work. I mean, they know how to do it. The work's easy. The work's the easiest part of it. It's just knowing the information to do the work that needs to be done. I think it's the hardest part. It's what kills me on the podcast. It's not that I'm lazy. I don't have a lazy bone in my body. It's just that sometimes I'm ignorant to the situation. I don't know how to go about to do it.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, I just won't do it. I won't fool with it. I ain't got to. Terrible attitude.
Yeah, but you're right about the working. You know what I mean? When you're that's a change in itself. For well, working 60 hours a week and transferring that to, what we're doing online, you're exactly right. Like, that's not the problem. We can do that.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had to learn things to balance that, because that's not,
Sure.
that creates burnout.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but those that, uh, just talking about the person that's used to pipelining, has been for way longer than you and I have, they come home and they don't know what to do. Like, or if they were to get a job, I've heard stories, they get that 40-hour week job and they're going nuts. It's not even about the money. They just don't know what to do on their
Yeah.
2 or 3 days off. You know what I mean? They're like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like they literally get bored. Like they're so used, and it's so programmed in their mind to just work minimum 60 hours a week,
They try to go fishing or do this, do that, and they're bored with that in 2 weeks. I know a lot of guys that aren't that way, but I know just as many, if not more, that they took a they go home and they work 5/8, and they're like, well, I didn't know what to do after lunch that day. I just, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a hard thing. Like my dad always worked. He had the dairy, or he worked for a dairy farm. Then he had the feedlot. And he worked 7 days a week my whole life. I think it's just, uh, I mean, don't worry. He's been retired the last 10 years, but he, I mean, for the majority of my life, the guy got up every day at 4 o'clock. He might make it home at 5. He might not be home till midnight. Depends if it was, calf season or whatever. He had going on his plate. It's just, I remember being in high school and I was so hard to wake up. Like I didn't want to get up. And now I'm awake every day pretty much at 4:30. It's, I don't know. It's weird how your body and mind get programmed to stuff like when a company says, "Well, we're only working 5/10s," I was like, "Is that part? That's part time." Like I come out here for 60-hour checks, nothing more, nothing less, 60 hours. That was the guarantee. That's what you told me when I wouldn't be coming. I wouldn't come to your job if it wasn't 60 hours. I'll tell you that already. If you're
Yeah.
every other week, and it's not 60 hours, that's two X's and a two-strike rule. The bi-weekly paychecks, I don't like that because I like to be settled up every Friday with ourselves in case we have a conflict of interest. I can just go with But
Yeah.
I don't have them as much anymore as I used to. But it's just to kind of wrap this whole podcast up, put it in the shell here. If you went to today and you was throwing one piece of information out there that you feel you're going to keep for the rest of your career, well, your career is probably, I mean, it's all of our career. We say our careers, but our like what you got into here with the whole YouTube and stuff. You're going to be doing that for a long time, unless it gets to where you can hire people to do it and you don't have to do it no more. Which I hope it does. But if you say something you're going to keep with you, one information that you learned from your time at the vocational school till now is that information. Like, what's just one thing that you know is going to be with you until they put you in the dirt? The questions got harder as the podcast went on.
Yeah, it's this one's a little easier than the last one, I will say, but narrowing it down, one piece of information, something along the lines of, well, something that I would keep with me the rest of my life, like something that I've learned over the course of my life, career,
Yeah.
is just what I say at the end of every one of my videos, which is what's on my hat. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Staying open-minded. Learn something every day. If you're not learning, you're dying. You know what I mean? Like if you're not growing, you're shrinking. I can't remember the saying, but
For sure. Well, you're dangerous. You're not moving forward. Once you quit,
yeah, exactly.
I can't learn no more. I know everything. Well, you're done growing for sure, and you're not moving forward. You're gonna see that your relationships are gonna stand still. Your career is gonna stand still. It's all about growing and evolving. That's for sure. I like that. I figured you
Yeah.
go with that, but I just wanted to see.
to kind of add to it, less Les Brown, I heard him say it. I don't know who originally said it, but motivational speaker guy. He said, "You're never too old to learn, and you're never too young to teach." So to kind of ad lib that, the whole concept of like, I mean, it kind of just goes back to what I said about being open minded, like looking at others as your equal instead of, you know, less than. Because it's easy to look at a kid and be like, oh, he don't like, I can't learn nothing from him. But if you're that open minded that you can learn from a kid, or you can learn from a like a baby that can't even talk, or somebody that's homeless, like if you're not looking at them as equal, you can't learn from them because you're not valuing them. So it's like, just that's why I brought out that quote, because it's like you're never too old to learn, but you're never too young to teach either. You know, like it's that whole open mindedness thing. I think it's huge. It's a huge part of life.
Sure. And as I gotten older, like I'm not saying that I'm a liberal, but the open mindedness to be more accepting. Like I used to treat my helpers a certain kind of way because I was taught them habits when I was a helper. You know,
Sure.
the hard ass. You know, you got to cuss them over everything. Blah blah blah. I'm trying to get better and better, so I become a better teacher in turn. Make better welders that I'm releasing into the world that are prepared, not and that way they make better welders that are even more prepared because it's such a dying. Whole reason that the podcast even exists because I wanted to capsule people's stories and information for people, the younger generations, to hear that they can. When it's out there in the world, it's not like a and let people know that like more than what you think, more people are open to teaching than they are to just be an asshole about it. In our line of work, I mean, like I'm not saying that we don't know 1,000 assholes, but you know 2,000 teachers. It's however they go about it. There's a even the assholes will teach something. You just gotta dig through all the BS on top of it to get to what they're really trying to say. They just don't know how to present it, the right way.
I Man, you're speaking my language, Ty. You're speaking my language, because that it's what comes to mind when you say that is like asking questions. How important asking questions is, but what you just said about weeding through all the fluff and the bad attitude and all that stuff, they don't mind doing it. You can't take stuff personal, and you gotta ask questions because you want to learn, and you gotta just give them benefit of the doubt, understand that you know what I mean? Like, you gotta try to work on that mindset.
For sure.
You're speaking my language, dude.
And
Absolutely.
like when somebody presents you the information, is that not really how you want to hear it? But just take it, and you'll find the answer to your question most of the time in the ramblings of the bullshit that they said. It just they didn't know how to articulate it any other way than how to be an asshole because that's the way that they are. It's like Clay when he first came to work for me. I said, "Man, there is no stupid questions, bud. Any question you got to ask me, I'm here to tell you the answer to." And I don't remember the exact question I had to ask him, but he asked me something. I said, "That's the stupidest blanky blank I've ever." He said, "But you said there's no stupid questions." I said, "Clay, if you go around asking questions like that, people don't think you're stupid." I can't remember what it was. It was the most simple thing, and then a couple months later, we kind of run into the same thing again. And I said, "Clay, this is why it's that way because they don't know what they're doing, bud. We're good, but they done it the way that these other people doing it because nobody has a clue what's going on." And I said, "I'll tell you, being a welder, that when nobody has an idea what's going on, in chaos and confusion, there's dollar bills. That's all I see. We're just going to kick back over here. We're not going to go try to fool with what they got going on. We'll just draw our paychecks." He was like, "Why didn't you just say it the first time?" And I was like, "Well, it was a stupid question. Now it made sense. We've seen it twice now. It's not an anomaly anymore. It's a common occurrence in the pipeline." But
That's too funny.
he has a business mindset because he went to college for business. So he's very professional in the way he handles stuff. Immature, and I'm not built that way. I didn't get a pipeline because it wasn't even about. I don't think it was so much about the money or the lifestyle. I think it was just that it looked like it was so much doggone fun. When you see it, you meet the characters that's involved in it, and you see it. You're just like, man, I don't know. It's like being part of the carnival, or the freak show or whatever. You're not the bearded lady. You're the whatever is in a freak show that's above the bearded lady. The guy that swallows a sword. Maybe I don't know. It's I don't know. In the neighborhood, I think for a lot of people that like I didn't have a rough life, but I know a lot of guys that they didn't have siblings and all this stuff. I think the brotherhood they're drawn to that aspect of it. And it's a family. Like a lot of it's not so much anymore, but 8, 9, 10 years ago, it was more family oriented. I feel like there wasn't so many people trying to be this alpha and this alpha, and they're just clashing. You're always going to have people like that, but I think it's when you cut it and dry it, it's more. It's a brotherhood and a family, kind of thing.
Oh, for sure.
But,
I know what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're laying down. It is for sure.
like you said, you still like
We
to
all
go up to the 798, talk to fellas and stuff like that, because you miss the camaraderie or whatever, you know.
yeah.
You're always going to have a bad apple with anything you do, Like another thing that I had to get adjusted to, which I'm sure you're way better at handling than I am, is the negative comments that you get in the world. You have a business that your name's attached to. Your mobile welding, that's Austin Ross. I work for a company, so whatever I say and do, they're not affiliated with unless I'm on the right of way or on their properties. It's just Tile Inc. Enterprises, and I can get away with a lot more. Like I can tell them to blankety blank on the TikTok, and it's not a big deal, But I feel like you're a person that handles that negative that negative energy better than per se I handle it.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not sure where that comes from, but yeah, I've combination of things.
Yeah.
My whenever I first started YouTube, believe it or not, I had kind of a bad attitude, like well, because I didn't understand some of the dumb questions. Like Kayla would tell me, she'd be like, "Somebody wants to know what something about your welding truck or something about welding," and I'm like, "Well, you just do it, or whatever it was. Like you just figure it out, you know what I mean?" And so all I'm doing is crediting her for keeping me humble in the beginning of my uh, like public in the beginning of my public appearance, because she was very aware of, you know what I mean, like she could just see a part of me that I couldn't see, you know what I mean? And so she's taught me a lot about, you know what I mean, about a lot of things. This is a whole nother deal I could go deep into, but so I credit her. I mean, some of my raising and I don't know, some of that comes natural, but there's a lot of it that didn't, that I've been learning over the years. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. When somebody asks a question, like I can't even I want to word this. When when somebody asks you a question that's not directly involved in the trade, like on your YouTube channel, they're asking a genuine question, and you're in a position to make them not feel like a gomer for asking a question, like I think that's a very fine line to walk right there, to where, like, if you said something to me and I didn't understand it, and I asked a question and you pop back off to me, well, I'm not going to get my feelings about it, but I'm in the industry, like I know how people are, but somebody else could be like, oh man, that guy's a dick right there out the gate, They don't know you, they don't personally know you, but you said that's a dumb question, they automatically build their opinion on you off of that. But the I don't know. The social media thing it's a very good tool, but also a very iffy tool at the same time. Or however you want to say it, it's a double edged sword for sure.
Totally. I totally agree with that for sure. It is. We gotta be. We gotta be. Well, we just gotta hold ourselves accountable. You know what I mean? We gotta remember that we have a choice. You know what I mean?
For sure.
As far as how we use social media, you know what I mean?
The last little bit, I'll wrap it up here. You wanna drop all your links to YouTube and I know it's arossweldon.com for the website.
Yeah, arosswelding.com for like resources, like free downloads and stuff, tools list, and um, our online stores there. Of course, the mobile welding is right there on the front page. But yeah, online store, arosswelding.com. And then, of course, there's links there that also go to our trade school. But to go directly to the trade school, it's arosswelding.school. And yeah, those are the two main ones. Yeah.
Good deal. Um, and I know we didn't cover everything. We're out here at an hour and 50, or 2 hours, almost 2 hours. The I hope to circle back. I kind of got this list that runs through August, the first week of August, and but I'm going to circle back through the first 10 or 11 podcasts that I had. If I can get them guys back on, now that I have this new way of doing it, circle back through, and I would like to come back to a couple other ones like Austin Priest. We didn't get to cover everything with you. I know there's parts we could dig deeper in on. Sometimes you're just scraping the shell, and it's a lot of information to pack. It's like a like a 15-minute video for you that you try to cut down to 5 minutes. That's a lot of information to shove into it. It's easy to do the podcast because I've got a bunch of people that listen to this. They're gonna drive home on Saturday night. They're gonna drive 2 or 3 hours to go home. They're gonna drive 2 or 3 hours back on Sunday. You know, but I never get to everything that I want to know, and ask questions on. But I've been trying to keep it around the 2 hour mark. Uh,
I'd love to be back for sure, man.
that's what I was getting at. And, I'd
I
set up another date with you once I run through this list again. I'd like to set up another time where we can sit down and dive more into maybe the business marketing part of it. Maybe.
yeah, I'd be glad, Ty. I'd be glad. I've had a pleasure visiting with you, and it's been a good time. I enjoy these conversations more than you realize. So,
It's good.
and
It's good for our industry. It's it's good for a lot of things outside of out on the road and A Ross. It's just good to get information out there. People understand. I think when you have conversations like this, people can sit there and reciprocate the information because it's more of a genuine conversation. It's not so much a question and answer kind of deal. I don't know.
sure,
I like
no,
doing
for
this,
sure,
man. It's always fun, and I mean I've always been interested in history and biography and all that stuff. So it's always interesting to sit down with somebody and learn their stories. Learn about them.
oh, for sure.
But I sure appreciate your time. I know it's 9:17. It's a long. It was a long one, but it's a good one. It's a good one, and I appreciate it. And we'll
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.